Like many in Hollywood, actress Allison Mack sought spiritual guidance outside the mainstream. And 13 years after checking out a women's empowerment seminar, the actress, who is best known for her role as Chloe Sullivan in the hit TV series Smallville, pled guilty to charges of racketeering and conspiracy in April 2019. With regards to her efforts to recruit women for the cult NXIVM, which is spelled like this to probably give it a more mystical effect.
Remember that conversation we had this morning about your priorities? Well, I've been thinking about my priorities, and I think they're a little screwed up.
One Saturday morning in late 2006, several dozen people filed into an unremarkable hotel conference room in Vancouver, British Columbia for a 2-day introduction to J-Ness. This program was billed as a women's movement which fell under the NXIVM umbrella organization, offering a host of personal growth courses attended by thousands of people all over the world.
I don't know why, that makes me want to cry. It's beautiful.
NXIVM's president, Nancy Saltzman, a bespectacled brunette with a bob and acute, sharply drawn, dodgy eyebrows, was the speaker at this event. Saltzman, who was previously a nurse, co-founded NXIVM in 1998 with its leader, Keith Raniere, started her speech with a brief history on gender relations.
I'm Nancy Saltzman. I'm the president of NXIVM Corporation and Executive Success Programs.
And she talked about how women have been raised to be monogamous and how men's general nature is to be more polygamous in nature in order to spread their seed. It's also been reported that a lot of the high-ranking members of this cult knew that Allison Mack, who was 23 at the time, would be in attendance that weekend and that they wanted to make her feel special.
Before J-Ness, I had tons of people around me all the time. I've always been a people person, but I felt very lonely.
And whether this is true or not, apparently fellow Smallville actress Kristin Kreuk was the one who brought Allison Mack along to that conference. And I mean, in the end, Kreuk was involved to a far lesser extent than Mack was in the NXIVM cult.
The accusations that I was in the inner circle or recruited women as sex slaves are blatantly false, Kreuk says. During my time, I never experienced any illegal or nefarious activity.
I kind of changed my life. I didn't take certain roles. I didn't do as much press. I kind of pulled myself away from the spotlight a little bit.
When the conference concluded, Mack accepted an invitation to fly on a private jet back to Albany, New York in order to meet Raniere in the flesh. They also told her that Raniere could help her with her acting career. Now, this invitation was apparently very unusual, even for a VIP like Allison Mack, because most high-profile initiates first had to complete a 16-day intensive at a cost of $7,500 before they had the honor of meeting Vanguard. Yes, so Keith Raniere, the little 5'7" twat, actually gave himself a nickname, and Saltzman also was known as, I think people had to call her Prefect. So yeah, but in any case, so Vanguard apparently is from a popular arcade game back in the day.
Yes, well, sometimes it even amazes me.
I mean, can you imagine you're in this new group or cult or whatever you want to call it, and some little Harry Potter lookalike says that you have to call him Vanguard, and then Saltzman, who looks like your standard grade 1, grade 2 primary school teacher, you have to call her Prefect. Yeah, fuck that noise. And I mean, I get it. I mean, a lot of these people, it's all based in and rooted in insecurities. And these cults fill a void. They draw you in and they just go along with this crap because they believe that it's going to make them better people at the end of the day.
Going through my life and going forward into my life from this place with that recognition, I feel like the possibilities are endless.
And in April, 12 years after that first meeting, federal prosecutors in New York indicted Mack and Raniere on 3 felony counts of sex trafficking and conspiracy to commit forced labor, alleging that NXIVM provides cover for a brutal, coercive sex ring that requires its subjects to turn over sexually compromising pictures and other damaging collateral as a form of insurance against breaking with the group.
The actress was also indicted and released just this week on a $5 million bond.
Were you involved in a sex cult?
The claim against her is that she was effectively recruiting people, knowing exactly what was happening, and then coercing them into having sex with Raniere.
Raniere was arrested in March after a 6-week manhunt led the FBI to a lavish $10,000 a week compound in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, where he and several women, including Mack, had been staying.
Raniere is expected to be arraigned in Brooklyn.
And making a cameo appearance in that video is what appears to be a dazed-looking Allison Mack.
Mack then proceeded to return to Brooklyn, where she had been staying since 2012, and she was arrested on April 20th. Prosecutors believed that the actress was the leader of a secretive sex cult within the NXIVM structure called DOS, which stands for Dominus Obsequious Sororium, or Master over Slave Woman. These fucking names. In this group, Mack allegedly held the second most senior position after Raniere as a master, and she recruited slaves from within NXIVM who were then held down by other slaves who were branded with the hot cauterizing pen.
It was, imagine a hot laser dragged across your flesh for 30 minutes without anesthetic.
Prosecutors say that this was done forcefully and without consent, and also without telling the victims the nature of the scar that would form. A ragged, stamp-sized welt that turned out to be an amalgam of Mack's and Raniere's initials, KRA and M.
I lost it when I figured that out.
You're stamped as property of somebody?
I'm not cattle. I'm not owned by Keith.
In the end, Allison Mack, who was 39 at the time, was sentenced to 3 years, as well as 3 years probation, plus a fine and 1,000 hours of community service.
For her role, Mack pleaded guilty to racketeering and racketeering conspiracy charges and worked with prosecutors on the case against Raniere.
While Vanguard, Keith Raniere, was sentenced to 120 years in prison.
This is the finale for him. His victimization of people, his terrorizing people, it really is over.
Allison Mack, however, wasn't the only high-profile member of the NXIVM cult. Few proved so vulnerable to NXIVM's allure as Seagram Harris's Claire and Sarah Bronfman, who each contributed as much as $100 million to the group. Claire Bronfman, who was not directly associated with DOS operations and who refused to renounce Raniere, is currently serving an 81-month sentence after pleading guilty in 2019 to conspiring to conceal and harbor an undocumented immigrant for financial gain. While Sarah, who partially renounced the group and was not charged, is now reportedly living in Portugal. Mack was released on July 3rd, 2023 after serving 2 of the 3 years in federal prison.
Prosecutor said she deserved less time because of her cooperation with investigators. Mack was best known for her role as a young Superman's close friend on the TV series Smallville.
Now, the interesting thing to me about these, or the fascinating thing to me about these cults, aren't really the cults themselves, but the reason and the total amount of gullibility of the people that join these cults.
What's wrong with me? All this stuff.
And in the case of Allison Mack, I mean, her career was going well, she was financially stable. I think she joined in season 5 of Smallville, and as you know, Smallville still ran for a number of seasons after that. And it's interesting that there are these high-profile individuals that still have this emptiness and this void which they need to fill, and somehow these dodgy cult-like organizations fill this void.
I don't know, I think because it seems like it's something that I feel like I want it.
The celebrity aspect of these cult-like organizations is also pretty interesting because these organizations bring in high-profile celebrities in order to boost their own credibility, and they do give preferential treatment if you are a celebrity. Like in the case with Scientology, I mean, you know, they've got a number of them, like Tom Cruise, John Travolta. Well, Danny Masterson isn't going to get any preferential treatment anytime soon because he's just been sentenced to 30 years in prison.
That's right. Actor Danny Masterson, made famous from that 70s show, has been found guilty on...
And you kind of get the feeling that if Allison Mack was exposed to Scientology before she got exposed to NXIVM, that she would probably still have been a part of the Scientology cult, because she fits Scientology's target demographic to a T.
The first principle of Scientology is that it's only true if it is true for you.
Keith Raniere was also apparently a judo champion, and he was also in the Guinness Book of World Records because he had an extremely high IQ or some shit like that.
I'm an interesting person, I'm a controversial person, but most importantly, I'm an unconventional person.